If we diversify internationally, what do you diversify in? What types of assets would you recommend at this time of the business cycle and economic cycle, given the fact that we're heading into, or I guess we're already in, but going deeper into this greater depression?
Yeah. Well, that's another problem as we speak now at the tail end of 2011. There's almost nothing in the world that is really a cheap thing, a real bargain. Even gold, which I'm still very friendly towards, has gone up about 7 times in 10 years. Well, it's going higher, but it's not being given away like it was 10 years. Same with silver. There's really nothing that's cheap. I mean, stocks, are they cheap? Well, I'm agnostic on the value of stocks. But I'll say this, I remember as late as the mid-1980s when 3 major stock markets in the world, the Spanish, Belgian, and the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, all were yielding 12 to 15% in current dividends, selling at 2-3 times earnings and a fraction of book value. So that's a bargain. I don't see that anywhere. It can't be in real estate. The real estate bubbles burst, and once the bubbles burst, it doesn't reinflate for a long time. It's very problematical. This is one of the things that Richard Russell said, and I'm a big fan of Dick Russell, is he said, during a depression, the winner is the guy that loses the least. So I think it's a question of keeping capital together.
Yeah. Best way to keep capital together, though, it would be what?
I think you've got to buy a lot of gold. You've got to buy a lot of silver. You've got to keep it, a lot of it, outside of your home country. I think you've got to buy foreign real estate. But I think you've got to take advantage of these politically caused distortions to speculate. And by speculate, I don't mean gamble. Speculate is a word that's misused. To speculate is to position yourself to capitalize on politically caused distortions in the marketplace. If we lived in a free market society, which we don't, it would be very hard to be a speculator. But we don't live in that kind of the world. So it's pretty easy to be a speculator. Like right now, one of the best speculations I can think of, it's not easy to do this, but it's to go short bonds. Because bonds, which is the biggest market in the world, actually, is also the most overpriced market, and it's going to be a disaster. Interest rates, which are, depending on which bond, which interest thing we're looking at, 2 to 3, 4, 5%, something like that. Those interest rates could double, triple, quadruple easily, which means that the bonds go down proportionally, in addition to the fact the currencies that they're issued in are going to go down. So that's a good speculation where you could grow in capital. I think
but it's also good advice to just get out of bonds, even if you don't want to speculate by going short. Don't be long.
No, absolutely. If you own a bond, get rid of it. Get rid of it while there's still a buyer.
Regardless of the currency.
Regardless of the currency. I hear this, people talk about people are going to panic into U.S. government paper because it's safe and secure. That's complete nonsense. I mean, the people that say that, I mean, I lose respect for them. Yes, U.S. government paper is liquid, and that's a reason to hold it, because you can buy it and you can sell it. You can't do that with a lot of things. The big money can't. But I don't have any interest in owning it, because the dollar is going to be a hot potato. There's 6 trillion, 7 trillion, nobody knows, U.S. dollars outside of the United States owned by foreigners. And unlike Americans who must settle their debts and purchases with dollars, it's legal tender, foreigners don't have to hold dollars, and they recognize increasingly they're holding hot potatoes. And there could be a rush to the exits. Not that they want to rush to the exits, because everybody gets hurt in a panic. But those dollars are eventually, the standard of living in the United States has been artificially increased for many years, because what we've been doing is exporting dollars, which the government prints up, And all those nice foreigners send us Sonys and Mercedes in exchange for the dollars. It's been a great trade. We give them paper, they give us real wealth. But it's going to turn around. And when those dollars come back to the U.S., the titles to U.S. shares and U.S. real estate and other assets are going to be packaged up and owned by other people.
That assumes the U.S. government allows those dollars to come back into the United States. I mean, you could have capital controls imposed to keep those dollars outside the U.S.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's very likely because they won't want that to happen.
So owning dollars is bad enough, but what you don't want to do is own dollars outside the United States.
It's a dog's breakfast. I mean, there's so many ways that this could come down, and almost all of them are ugly. I don't see any happy ending to this. I've long said the only way out of this that I can see is if friendly aliens land on the roof of the White House and present us with some kind of a magic technology. But I don't think that's going to happen. There's no way out. This is a existential nightmare, actually.
So let's get back. Getting out of bonds makes good sense. Shorting bonds is a good speculation. What about other asset classes?
Well, I think that
real estate's a bust.
You know, real estate is a very localized market. Last month, I went through the Middle East, and one of the reasons I went to Cairo, among other places I went there, is because I'm involved in a real estate deal in Cairo. These wonderful old buildings on the Nile River, built during the Belle Epoque days when Cairo was a place when the jet set equivalent of that day. Wonderful weather, wonderful old buildings, apartments with 12, 14-foot ceilings made out of marble and all that. But of course, since Nasser, they've all been rent controlled, they're falling apart. Well, we can get them for almost nothing at this point, fix them up. We think we can double our money in 2 years on a cash basis. So I'm doing that. I'll buy anything, anywhere, if the price is right. And so that's one thing that I'm doing. But that's an anomaly. There's always anomalies for real estate. But as an asset class, I think real estate is heading down, or is at best flat for a generation, quite frankly. That's not to say that maybe in 5 years, I'm guessing wildly, perhaps I can buy houses in Las Vegas, and maybe the government idiotically will give me a no-recourse, low-interest rate loan just to buy the house and take it off the market. They'll probably do something like that. And I can make money having the mortgage inflated out of existence, even if the property itself doesn't go up. I do like the idea of a bubble. Excuse me, I don't like the idea, but I do think it's highly likely that there will be a bubble created in junior mining stocks, good ones, as we discussed before.
Just to drill down a little bit on real estate, distinguishing between, property that already has buildings on it, be it residential or office buildings or plants or whatever. What about just raw land, farmland, timberland?
Well,
as a way of preserving wealth, because I mean that is real wealth, isn't it?
It is, and I personally, along with with some friends and other deals, we bought a lot of land down in Argentina and Uruguay not so long after they destroyed their economy in 2002. Got it very cheap. A lot of it's productive, and I think a good case can be made for owning productive farmland. No question about that. I'm especially friendly towards cattle, because as I look now at and this has been true for some years, this has been true for generations, cattle are very, very cheap. Nobody's made any money in cattle for a long time. Cattle herds all over the world are in liquidation. I'm talking about beef herds. And I think that that's going to turn around. I think that if you can get into the cattle business, that's easier said than done. I mean, it's not something that just anybody can do for all kinds of reasons. But I think that's a good place to be, and I'm there. I'm also in the dairy business down there. I like that. Growing things generally. I'm doing that in Argentina because our capital costs of land are very, very low. Labor costs are very low. There's other disadvantages, but I think it's a good place to be. And it's international diversification outside of the US in my case. So I like that, but there just aren't a lot of bargains in the world, in the financial world today.